Okay, we are working from the Course 2 textbook. And we are doing lesson 1.4, multiplying integers. Okay, I'm going to create this little chart, and there's no way around it. You're just going to have to memorize this chart. A positive times a positive equals a positive. Negative times a negative equals a positive. A positive times a negative equals a negative, and a negative times a positive equals a negative. So this is just something you're going to have to memorize. But let's explain what's going on. So when we're multiplying two numbers that have the same signs, you're going to have a positive product. So what does that mean? We have positive 7 times positive 8. Remember, if there's not a sign in front of the number, it is an implied positive. So you can either remember that or you can pencil it in if it helps you out. So we have positive 7 times positive 8. This is a positive times a positive. So my answer is going to be positive 56. And the same is true of negatives. Negative 5 times negative 6. It could also look like this. Okay? Negative 5 times negative 6 with parentheses. Both of these are the same thing. So I have a negative times a negative. My signs are the same. A negative times a negative. My product is positive. So my product is going to be positive 30. So if the signs are the same, your product is going to be positive. Now, if we have different signs, we're going to have a negative product. So we have positive 3 times negative 4. And it could look like this. They're both the same thing. Remember, if we don't have a sign in front of the number, it is an implied positive. If it helps you, you can pencil that positive sign in. So we know 3 times 4 is 12, but we have different signs. We have a positive and a negative. So my answer, my product, is going to be negative. When we're multiplying different signs, our product is going to be negative. So let's do another one. Negative 7 times 4. Now, the 4 does not have a sign in front of it, so it is an implied positive. We know that 7 times 4 is equal to 28, and my signs are different. Therefore, my product is negative. Okay? So if the signs are the same, regardless of what the sign is, if the signs are the same, your product is positive. If your signs are different, your product will be negative. Okay, so let's take this one step further. Okay, we have negative 5 squared. When we have an exponent of 2, it means we're multiplying the base 2 times. So this means negative 5 times negative 5. It could also look like this. They're both the same thing. So we know 5 times 5 is 25. And since my signs are the same, my product is positive. Now, this is different than this. Here, the negative is actually outside of the parentheses. Here, we wanted the -5, the negative, to be with the 5. We wanted this whole thing to be squared. Here, we're only squaring the 5, not the negative sign. So what this is telling me is we have -5 times 5. Well, the negative comes down and 5 times 5 is 25. So these are two very different things. Here, the negative is part of the 5, and this whole thing is being squared. Here, the negative is not being squared. This exponent is attached to the 5, not the negative. This is what it looks like. So let's do that again. Let's do another one. -5 cubed. This is telling me that this whole thing is going to be cubed. -5 times -5 times -5. And now we're going to work this from left to right. -5 and -5. 25, and since negative and negative are the same, it's +25. Then this comes down. So now I have 25 times 5, which is 125, but I have a positive and a negative. So my answer is negative. Now this is different than this. This is telling me that I am only cubing the 5. The negative is not part of it. So this is 5 times 5 times 5. So this negative is going to come down, and I'm going to multiply 5 times 5. This comes down. So once again, this negative comes down, and I'm multiplying. 25 times 5 is 125. Another way of thinking about this, you can go -5 times 5 times 5. So the first thing we're going to do is work on this. 5 times 5 is 25. This 5 comes down. 25 times 5 is 125. And now the negative sign comes down. You can think of it either way. So that's what we're doing today. We're going to be multiplying integers. So when the signs are the same, positive and positive, my answer is positive. Negative and negative, the answer is positive. When the signs are different, the product is negative. Okay? When we're dealing with exponents, if the negative is in the parentheses, then it is part of what is being, it's part of the base. It's part of what's being squared. If the negative sign is not in the parentheses, the negative sign is not part of what's being squared, only the number. And the same is true when we're cubing. If the negative sign is in the parentheses, it is part of the base that is being multiplied. If it is not in parentheses, it is not part of the base, it's being multiplied. Only the 5 is being multiplied. Okay? So that's what we're working on today.